What's up, guys? We're live again. I don't know what episode this is. Mike will write it down. 43.
No,
34. So, guys, what we're going to do is we're going to start with a question from Yogev Adler. He's asked it twice. Clarification on sort of arm trapping from the back. And then, you know the format. Live questions get the priority. So, arm trapping. So, generally, Yogev's question was, I believe Yogev is from Israel, is how do you trap the arms? So, in a video with Marcelo, he shows, so he tries to go over and trap. So he goes from overhook and an underhook to double overhook to try to trap this arm. So this is, I believe, how it sort of goes. That's good. A lot of guys, sometimes people go sort of on the same side. Sometimes reaching cross helps. I'm personally a bigger fan of isolating the arm with my legs. So it comes down to a personal preference to some extent. In Jiu-Jitsu, people always, they sort of look for absolutes, black and white answers. A lot of times there is no black and white answer. I usually use this analogy with the guillotine. So my favorite guillotine is a no-arming guillotine with shallow grip. Is that the best guillotine? No. Is it good? Yeah, absolutely. That works well for me against high-level guys because the shallow grip is easy to get. By definition, going shallow, you don't have to go deep. If you have to go deep and the guy defends immediately, if I can get my hand just up to this level, I'm in. Whereas with, high elbow, you need to go deep. So what are some of the other benefits, for example, is that you can cement mix in either direction. Now, high elbow, for example, has higher constriction power. Arming guillotine, it's better. Usually, it's easier to get, especially with the gi. However, you cannot cement mix in either direction, but you're less vulnerable to von flu. So it becomes sort of like a risk-benefit analysis. And I believe the same sort of principle applies with isolating the arm. So a lot of times, I'm a big fan of head and arm control. Whether it's defending things, for example, especially when you're defending leg locks, head and arm control generally prevents the guy from leg locking. So usually what they need to do is twist and arch at the same time, or at least one or the other. So I'm a big fan of head and arm control. So once I have a head and arm control on the back, I will work to isolate the arm with my legs rather than with my arms. I have found that to be a more consistent, especially nowadays, with EBI rules, people have gotten really, really good at escaping the back. I mean, guys that compete a lot, they've spent a half a class escaping the back from that position. And, you do that every day, for months or years, you're going to be really, really good at escaping the back. So once you get to the back, in the past, 15, 20 years ago, generally meant the guy's done. And nowadays, especially no-gi, doesn't mean that anymore. So I'm a big fan of, painful memories are popping up, right? So I'm a fan of keeping that head and arm control and working towards isolating that arm with my legs as opposed to sort of redeploying my arms in a way that start to push the arm in and I can trap it with my leg. So I'm just going to do it from a guard pass where the guy starts to turn and how would I take the back, okay? So a lot of times, so I pass guard. So notice how I'm slowing him down. I'm slowing him down with my elbow and I immediately try to get my chin. From here, I get a head and arm and I slide up my left knee high, and then I just cradle him. So I'm not looking necessarily, guys are too anxious to put their hooks in immediately. This actually, believe it or not, this lessens the control of your hips over his body. So this is very strong control. I'm usually looking to trap it as soon as I sit back. That's your best chance. But even if I don't, this is a very strong form of control. He cannot twist that easily. So as people, try to get both hooks in, this is where that opening comes in, and a lot of times they lose it. So if you've been watching for a while, you know, again, I'm a fan of least amount of regripping as possible. So I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, we're going the other side now. So guys, I don't really care what form. And I'm sliding my knee high. And now I'm looking to trap. But even if I don't, so now we're in this position where we start a battle. Usually you need to keep your head extended. So it's normally I'd like to trap the arm that I don't have 2-on-1. But in this case, if I can, I will trap on the underhook side. Okay? I always try to use my head, because if you get lazy, this allows him to escape a little better. So always use your head as a form of control, especially if should Enrique turn to the other side. Now, he's on the other side. Mike, are we still in frame? Yeah. I saw you kind of waving your hands.
I'll try to get you around so they can see your head.
So use your head. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay 2-on-1. And now I'm going to try to look for this. So as Enrique defends, he has to defend. This is my preferred way to isolate the arms from the back. All right? So rather than giving grip. Oh, what we got here?
No.
Yes, it is happening.
Tap, tap.
So anytime,
We'll go from there.
let's go to the other side so that way they can see. So anytime I'm on somebody's back, once I have that head and arm, I usually stay with the head and arm, because if you are good in that position, the only thing that may make it possible for him to escape is to literally give you an armbar. Give it to you. If he doesn't give it to me, I will stay and continue to attack the back. So again, I slide, and from here, I start to attack. Sometimes it'll take you more than one. That's it. Once I'm here, I generally place my heel in the crook of his elbow, and I push. Now it's trapped. Now Enrique has a couple of very bad options. One is to try to, if I use my head correctly, it's going to be very hard for him to put his back on the floor. Why are you tapping?
Yes.
To what?
To the choke. You were choking me. Where did it? Okay, you were not choking me. There's video evidence of it.
So as I'm doing this, guys, literally the only possible option he sees, and I stay on this until he literally puts himself into an armbar. I don't have to make any big movements to put him into an armbar. So that's my philosophy when it comes to grip fighting from the back. Like I said, I tend to not use my hands as much as I use my legs. I don't try to put my hooks in. Guys, there's a difference. So I've said this before, that I believe the rule set, which makes sense to a large extent in terms of hierarchy of positions and so forth, I believe that it has become somewhat obsolete in light of how the game has evolved over especially the last 10 years. And I believe that, if you're in competition, you want to get your hooks in as quickly as possible, because that's where the points are. However, I think when you do that, that's when people tend to lose their opponent, instead of keeping tighter control without actually putting the hooks in immediately. I'm looking for that control, but it's another step. Now, in terms of competition, where you will get rewarded, most tournaments is 4 points for that. Man, get your hooks in quickly. hold it for 3 seconds, and then figure out if you're going to get the submission. But if you're hunting for a submission, you want control, I believe there's a different way to do it. So I hope that answers Yogev's question. And Mike, what do we got?
We have everybody saying good morning, and we also have
I missed you guys.
We also have check-ins from Phoenix and Australia.
Nice.
And the question that we have, this is from Adolfo. He's asking, Fox, do you like tucking your foot behind their back when you trap the arm?
Yes, absolutely. That's a good question. Let me at least, guys, I know this is funny, this is a joke, but you know, like when you train certain positions, don't ever do this. So if I'm training an armbar from side control, don't ever get in there that way. Why? Because martial arts are muscle memory. Okay? When you do that 20 times and you get into that position the way I just showed, that's what your body and mind remembers. That's how you get into that armbar. How many times are you going to get into that armbar that way? Never. So you shortchanging yourself. So anytime you're drilling a position or a sequence, always do it in a logical way, because a lot of times the details and the best opportunities, both for escape as well as for an attack, come in the transition, not necessarily from that position. All right? So again, I get to hit from this position. All right? So right now I have two on one, but I do have some sort of control. All right? So now I have 2 on 1 here. So right now, even though, because this is the top arm, my left leg is trapped. So now I'm going to try to trap this one. But if I can, if I can hide my foot behind. So here, Enrique can swim. So if you're lazy about any of your, and not just, I don't just tuck it in, but I'm also bringing it in. So there's almost no way. You forgot. You forgot. There's almost no way he's going to recover that arm. All right, so that's a good question. Yes, I always like to tuck in my foot. So especially if I triangle my legs, that's another thing that I'm trying to do, is triangle my legs. Anytime I triangle that leg that's kind of out there, not hidden, not triangled, it's the same thing. I'm trying to hide this. So make sure that it does several things. It kind of prevents him from grabbing it and trying to push it out of the way so he can recover. It prevents him from sort of grabbing it and trying to open your legs, which creates opportunities for escape. And it kind of reminds you, when you tucked in like this, is to keep everything tight.
We also have some other check-ins from Texas and Vermont.
What's up, guys?
We have a question from Meowingtons. And he's asking, when is the best time to switch from seatbelt or 2-on-1 wrist control to grabbing the collar and start for your chokes?
That's a really good question. At what point do you transition from sort of setting things up to the kill? Yes, Enrique. Guys, that's a really, really good question. This is something very, very important, and this becomes, sometimes it's hard to put into practice, but a lot of times people go in for the kill too soon, meaning going for the submission too soon, before they set things up. A lot of times, as you eliminating options for your opponent, you're basically herding him into a sort of a zone where he has no other options except to give you a submission on a platter and then tap, because there's no other options. But when you start to try to hit that submission before you eliminate all the other options, sometimes usually that's a way easier way for him to escape at that point in time than down here. I hope that makes sense. So a lot of times, this is actually a very common mistake that people make when they're on the back. And rather than for the choke, I'm going to demonstrate, because I think it's that sort of mistaken or rushed attempt is more easily visible when the guy goes from the back to the armbar. So that's where I'm going to use that as an example instead of the choke. The choke is a little bit, just because you're focusing on one thing, that tends to be a little tighter. So it's harder to see sort of when you rush things. But with the armbar, this is a perfect example, again, from the back. You know what my muscle memory with you is? So, as I'm coming through, right? And now I'm pressuring him, and now I'm in a position. So this is where the mistake, watch, I'm rushing this right now. Because Enrique is in deep water, but he's not giving me the armbar. He's still laying on my leg. So people struggle to get the leg out. As they're doing this, the guy turns and it all goes to crap. Okay? So now I'm going to do that where I continue to pressure him until he literally hands me that armbar on a platter. And guys, I apply this philosophy to pretty much any attack. If I don't, like, you know, if I'm training with Enrique, you know, if he's in the right frame of mind, he's usually pretty good. I would say world class. Wrong. So as I start to, so now I isolate that arm. I will continue to pressure him. This is very painful for him. I'm not in a rush. I'm not in a rush. He gives me the armbar. Now I take it. Everything is set up. Okay? So that's a massive difference. Kind of understanding and feeling when his options are taken away, and it's the good time to switch into the submission mode from setup mode is very important. Excellent question.
And we have a question from Matt Harris. He's asking, from the triple threat position you were in, I tend to have problems finishing the triangle. Any pointers to make the choke more effective?
I use, in that instance, I tend to use the triangle as more as a form of control than a submission. So because your legs are not necessarily on the carotids, at the end of the day, you need, for triangle to work the way it's intended as a submission, is you need to be constricting the carotids. From that position, you know, basically you get there as the guy's trying to basically finagle his way out. It's hard to finish the triangle. I will squeeze because it makes it very uncomfortable. And as they twist at that point, there's not a whole lot of things they can do. They start to twist around, and when that happens, sometimes they literally make your legs kind of fall into place on the carotids. But in those instances, I don't rely on the triangle as a form of submission. I rely on it as a form of control.
And JiuJitsu hopped on. He said, "Miss you
What's
guys."
up, Lou?
Yeah.
Louis.
And we have a question from Chris Crew. He's asking, I'm a big guy, not flexible, and I worry about transitioning my weight for the armbar. I know it'll come in time, but it feels dangerous.
Well, that's the whole point. When you, especially, it doesn't matter whether you're flexible or are flexible. By the way, you can improve your flexibility. That's one thing that people can improve, but you want to make sure that you pressure them to a point where they literally hand you the armbar to a point where it's no longer dangerous, where you're no longer in danger of losing it. The reality is this, it's very simple. When you're in trouble, movement and scrambling benefits the guy that's being hunted. When you're doing the attacking, you want to keep everything tight, cinched in, pretty much certain. So obviously the guy that's in danger on the bottom, you know, not on the bottom, but in this case, he could be on the top, but I'm on his back. When he's in danger, he's going to try to sort of offer you, sometimes half-heartedly, guys. This is the big point. They kind of like make it look like they're giving you an armbar, but they're not. And then when you switch to it, that's premature switch. That's when you basically don't take it. Keep pressuring him until you have no choice. Like, okay, this is the only, oh crap. But he has to be in the, not here like, okay, here's my, oh, and I'm out. No. Okay, this is my only possible way out. You got to go to that point where it's literally handed to you on a platter. That is one of the central points of my book, which has a lot of pictures because I don't like to write. Guys, watch for the triggers, okay? But when somebody's handing you a submission on a platter and they're successful at defending whatever you attack with first, take it. But by then, it's already, the risk out of that transition has been mostly taken out by him. So again, I'm controlling him. So now I'm 2-on-1. So right now, yeah. Go ahead. This would be foolish. Again, I cannot switch into the armbar. Right? How do I increase the pressure on Enrique? I'll show you. I start to pull his head towards me. I control the arm. Right now, I'm still not in armbar position. His possible escape, and he's pretty good at this, at escaping this. His only possible escape is to turn to me, but that's almost impossible because my foot, all I need to do is improve my grip here. And here we are. Now, his only possible way is to try to sit up. So I put him into position. I don't know if you see as I'm closing off options that he has, down to the point where I know exactly what his one possible option is, and it's easy for me to shut it down. So that's how you want to kind of continue to, when you attack, I attack with the intention of getting quick submission. With high-level guys, sometimes you got to hit them with 3 or 4 before you hit the 4th one or 5th one. But with most guys, I want to hit it, you know, close off all the options quickly. But the best way, it's not sort of, I call it a fluke when you hit something where you, without setting it up. You need to hit it in a way that you can duplicate consistently over time against guys that are similar level, meaning not necessarily better than you, but you know, pretty close to your level. When you can do that on a regular basis, on a consistent basis, that technique, that sequence works. And we're out of time. All right, guys. Happy to be back live. We'll see you next week. By the way, next week, I believe we're going to do, we're live again, as usual. And we're also going to do it on the BJJ Fanatics Facebook page next Friday, September 2nd. I will see you then.
Guys, like, share, subscribe. Tell your friends, family members, training partners. Tell your dogs too.
All right, finally, something good comes out of you. We'll see you next week, guys.